Hey, it's Marthea Pitts, the MSW coach, and I am back for another episode of my podcast, Macro Social Work Your Way. I had to make sure my mic was on. Oh, okay. So, Happy New Year. Have I recorded? Yeah, I think I have recorded a podcast since the new year, but I think I skipped a week because I really wanted to sit in a place of just stillness to make certain that I am talking about the things that I need to be talking about with you all at the time that I need to be talking about it and not just be talking talk to meet the number of posting once a week a podcast episode at minimum. So I spent a lot of time thinking about what am I going to focus on specifically for the next month or so. And I came up with some things, right? Because and this is a part of the conversation today, because it's so convenient or easy to say that when it comes to your career and getting a better job, all you need is a resume, some job titles. Um, yeah, it's easy to name those things because those are the things that we see on the surface. But one of the things that we've been talking about in my mentorship community, if you don't know, I have a new mentorship community. It's not new anymore at this point. We started in December. We meet once a week, and we really break down the fundamentals to creating a career that you can stand behind. Because the reality of it is, yes, there are a lot of people out there who make lots of money. Um, but they hate their job still, right? Just because you make a lot of money doesn't automatically equate to the fact that you like your job, right? Because a lot of people fall into their career by happenstance, right? Um, a lot of people go into careers and professions because someone at some point in their life journey told them they would be good at a thing. Or another reality for many people, and this may be true for you, is that a lot of people fall into their career because it was the first job that floated by. It was the only thing, it was maybe the only thing you knew about as a child, as a young adult, as a fully grown adult. And then you just set sights on that as a goal, when in reality, you really didn't know what all your options were in the world. So, because of that, because people really, what I always say, people were more in a bystander role in their career rather than an active participant. Because of that, they are in misalignment, right? So that means, yes, I'm making a lot of money, but I hate my job. Or, yes, I enjoyed my job in the beginning, and now I'm 5 years into it and I hate it, right? And that's because a lot of people miss the critical step of doing the early pieces of work, the much deeper level work, the fundamentals of getting clear about what they want to do. And an example of, um, I just wanted to give a brief example of what it looks like when you don't know what you want to do is when you are applying to five different jobs or areas of work that are completely unrelated. Like they are not in the same family group at all. Um, I was talking to someone the other day, and she was saying, like, I want to go into human resources. And I said, just out of curiosity, what got you to the point to set your sights on an HR job? And she is the first person out of dozens of people that I've talked to in the last 2 years at this point, who was very honest about the fact of it's because that's all that I know that is out there. And I was like, oh my goodness, you are the first person to admit that, right? Because, and this isn't just for people who have sites on HR or any other types of jobs like that. A lot of people um, have certain career goals because is all they know about, but they will never say that to you, right? They will never admit that uh what I always find, like, the irony is that those people really usually are super, super hardcore about achieving that career goal, when in reality, deep inside, they are not even bought on the idea. Um, so I really wanted to start talking about, well, I wanted to talk about today some of, like, one of the things, right? One of the things that people are not aware of is that when you are unaware or dealing with deeper level fears, as much as you may try to keep it separate from your professional life, it will bleed over. And so, specifically, what I wanted to talk about today is about how your career confidence, right? Your belief in your ability to do higher level jobs and duties, roles over and beyond very frontline positions where people train you explicitly in the things that you would do every day, where there's like a training for 3 weeks and they give you a training guide and you sit in a training room and all of the things, right? Whereas I always how I haven't said this in years. How I used to explain it back in state government days is like very ABC level type of work, like paint by colors. If you do this, then you do this. If you do this, you do this, right? So when you are in roles like that, if your career confidence is not as high as it should be, you will never apply to roles where there are ambiguous job duties, right? So what that could look like is, maybe it's a role where they are looking for someone to start up a new program, right? It's never been done before. There's no model that you can follow. Let's live in this pretend example, right? There's no model that you can follow. There's no manual or guide. There's no pre-existing standard operating procedures, right? This will all need to be created from scratch. Someone who's coming from a very paint by numbers position would never, if their career confidence is very low, they would never apply for a role like that, right? Because you have to have a certain level of belief in your ability to do that type of work. So I say that, I give that example because one of the ways that a deep fear of something could stop you, diminish your career confidence from even looking at types of jobs like that is, it will hold you back silently, right? It's a silent saboteur to your career. An example that I shared with my mentorship group the other day was the last time we met, and we, of course, we had a much deeper conversation, and a lot of the participants had aha moments about, wow, I didn't realize that this was impacting me, and this is why I am where I am now, and the types of roles that I am now, right? Even though they are these stellar professionals, they excel in everything they do, they are clearly the top performers. So the example that I gave the other day was that, um, I had a deep rooted fear of being houseless because as a 17-year-old, I was houseless, right? So when I began to start working shortly after that experience, or even while I was still going through that experience, I still was houseless, right? So while going through that experience over time, one, I never even acknowledged that I was houseless, right? It wasn't until years later, I would say maybe like 10 years later, until someone really close to me at that time, someone was really close with, someone I trusted, was like, I was telling them the story about all of what went down 10 years before as a 17-year-old. And they were like, you were homeless, right? And I was like, I wasn't. Even though I wasn't a social worker then, but I still was in touch with reality. I knew, the going ons of the world and all of the things. I never equated my experience to me being house, right? So fast forward to several years ago where I was working on something, and the facilitator, the coach, my coach at the time, she had us doing work around our relationship with money. Because if your relationship with money is not good, money will never come to you. You will never open yourself up to money making opportunities, i.e., your career, higher level positions, making more money. If your relationship with money is not good, you won't attract it, right? So I am a very technical person. And this is where the difference between, and this is something that I see with many social workers. So I really want y'all to listen to what I'm saying, right? This is the difference between having a growth mindset and a limited mindset, right? Because what I always say, as social workers, you are oftentimes, more than not, looked to as being the all-knowing human. People place extreme unrealistic expectations on you. People look to you for answers. People value what you say and hold it in high regard. Also, in the mix with that, as social workers, helping professionals, people who in, it, truly are here in work life to help better the lives of people, right? You impose those things on yourself. So, with that, what I see with many social workers is, and I was guilty of it too, because with this story I'm getting ready to tell y'all, right? Because you are always the all knowing human, you close yourself off to learning, right? Um, and because one, you think you always know everything, when in reality you don't, because life truly is a journey. Every day you should be learning something new. You should never be to the place where you say you know everything and no one can tell me nothing, right? Or you just are dismissive. Of course, eat the meat and spit out the bones, whatever the saying is. But I say that to say, as social workers, a large amount of the time, they are the most least likely people that I have met in my life who are open to receiving information, new ways of thinking, new ways of doing and being, believe it or not. That's the whole irony of the thing, right? So she was going through this example. She was giving us some prompts to answer, questions to really take a deep dive. And I'm like, this is stupid. What I'm here for you to teach me XYZ. Why are we talking about my relationship with money? It was feeling real feel goody, right? And I'm like, I am a technical person. Just tell me what to do. Just give me the play. Why I'm here for, right? Why this has nothing to do with money. And so I was completely dismissive of the process the first 5 minutes. Now looking at it, talking about it out loud, again, that probably is because of my relationship with money has never been good. Because if you ain't got no money, what kind of relationship would you have with it? And the relationship that I had with it was not great. My money, thinking about my money gave me anxiety. Looking at my bank account gave me anxiety. Open, because I know when I opened it up, this is back in my call center days, before going macro, I open up my bank account, it would be in the extreme negative, right? It gave me anxiety. I had a bad relationship with my money. Even though I sat with my money a lot, right? I tracked my money, I did all of the things that people told you to do, but you can't budget not having enough money. So anyway, she gives us questions. She puts us in a group. Oh my goodness, right? As an introvert. So I'm already low-key pissed off we doing this. Because I'm like, you supposed to just be telling me to play. We ain't supposed to be in here talking about feelings and thoughts and all of the things, right? So then she puts us in a group. I I fortunately I was in a group with someone who I was familiar with in past sessions. So, and it was someone who had a very similar background as mine. I didn't know it at the time. And so I was a little more open to talking about these things because I'm like, I can relate to this person. That's just the life of being an introvert, right? I don't do small talk, and I most definitely ain't finna share my intimate business with a person that I don't know and a person that I feel like I can't establish a rapport with. So, anyway, fast forward, I'm more open to the conversation. I let the other person go, of course, right, to feel them out. What I knew of her, but I don't know this lady. So in the conversation, I started answering the questions. I would say around the second, third question, I got a little bit more serious in my responses and stopped giving like real super professional responses, a couple of words and then I'm done. And I really started to just flow in the conversation and thinking about the thing. And that is when I made a discovery that my relationship with money is connected to my deep rooted fear of being houseless. And the reason I shared that was because, well, the reason I had that fear is because I don't have a family, right? I have family, but I don't have a backup plan, right? Because if things don't work out for me, if I don't have an income, if I don't have steady money flowing into my home, and things just fell to the wayside, I don't have like a family member who I can go live with. And it's been that way since I was 17 years old. So when I'm out in the world, I'm out in the world. So what I realized the last week before I had my mentorship community do this work is that my deep rooted fear of being houseless led me ultimately over the years to play super small in my life and in my career. I'll give a personal and a professional example. So, the personal example is in my life, for years, I wanted to move away from the city that I lived in, but I was very reluctant. I never did it because even though I'm not super close to anyone here in my city, I'm like, I can't leave. I can't go anywhere that I don't know someone, right? And so that was me playing small. Even though I had done it like years later and was successful at it, years after that, I still was like, I can't go too far. I need to stay close to home base or I need to stay in my state. Why? Right? The second way professionally that showed up in my career was that, and again, these are my call center days. I did not apply for jobs that were super over and beyond like call center supervisory roles, maybe like an admin position that was super clerical stuff like what I did, you know, every now and again. Yeah. One moment, y'all. Yeah, I'm back. It has been several minutes. But I believe where I left off, and I meant to make a note. So if I repeat something, let's just ride it out for me, okay? But where how it used to show up in my professional life was back in the day, I wouldn't apply for anything that was over and beyond like clerical, even though I could never get those types of jobs because I was pigeonholed to call center jobs, right? I will only apply for things around that realm. I would never apply for anything that was super above that, right? So that would even include leadership level roles. It would include anything that, because I was working in state government. So I wouldn't apply for anything that was regulatory, anything where it would be a one of type position, right? I will only apply for jobs where there were mass number of other people doing the same type of jobs that I was doing. I would never apply for anything that was like a single type role where it'd be one person or maybe a small team of three or and then everybody would have their own ownership over a thing. I would never apply for those levels types of jobs because in my mind now looking back at it from a way more mature lens, it ultimately was that deep-seated fear of being houseless. I would not apply for those roles over and beyond a frontline position because ultimately there I would be assuming a certain level of risk, right? It meant that if I got in these roles and um, because we know as you advance, the less training you get for a thing, especially if it's like a one of type job. It's not going to be super trained like as a call center job or as like a case manager, right? It's not going to be a classroom type. It is going to be a figure it out as you go or figure it out on your own. That's why we pay you the dollars. So, as a way for me to maintain my control and ensure that I would never end up in a situation of being houseless, I did not take risks, right? So, which ultimately what that meant over the years is that I did not it stifled my earning potential. It left me in a place of in my personal life being severely unhappy because I wanted to move away, but I couldn't, right? Because the fear was just paralyzing me, even if I never said it out loud. Um, and so I say that because, and it was something else I was going to add on to that, the way the fear also stifled me. Oh, another way is that one, I even though this is the point I wanted to say, I was still fearful of advancing, even though I was always a top performer, even though I was ultimately training a lot of my leadership back then in those positions. I can't tell you the number of supervisors. Well, they weren't ever my supervisor, but they went on to become supervisors. They went on to become unit directors. Went on to become program directors. They went on to become regional directors, people that I trained in those very frontline positions who came in and like at an accelerated pace excelled well beyond me because my deep rooted fear wouldn't let me assume that level of risk to move around in my career, right? I will only move to similar type roles. So getting back to the story that I said earlier, when people say HR, excuse me, I'm going to be very specific. When that person that I spoke to said HR, when I hear people say that, what I always tell you are HR is a very case management adjacent role. You don't realize what you're saying because you haven't, this is my thing, this is my lane, this is my area of expertise, careers, right? You don't understand the magnitude of what you're saying, but when you say things like that, it immediately shoots up a red flag to me of there are some, it's either one, you don't know a lot about what options are out there for you. So you're just picking the low hanging fruit, what you can easily identify, what has a low barrier to entry, which is it's less risk involved, right? Um, and really, truly, it's roles that are very adjacent to case management level work. So I really wanted to talk about that today and ask you all to do some deep work, right? 2024, it is my hope. I'm gonna be real. I'm faith based. If you have been around on my platforms on any level, you know that I'm led by my faith. It really is my prayer that you all move past the surface level stuff, right? The reason you cannot get to the salaries that you want to make, the types of roles that you want to make, is because you are not willing to do the deeper level work. You may feel some kind of way, right? You have to be a certain type of person to engage in my content. It is what it is, right? It's easier to set your sights on and focus on other people's stuff and tell them what they got going on and how to fix their thing and all of the things, right? Um, to avoid your own stuff. So it really is my prayer in 2024 that you all move deeper, that you all move past just job titles, that you all move past just I need my resume rewritten. I pray that you all really understand the magnitude of when you are talking about your livelihood, that it will require some other stuff to be fixed, right? It will require some other things to be addressed. You can't just be putting a band-aid on the thing and moving and running past it, right? It's gonna show up even when you don't want it to show up. What I always say is your slip will show, right? So when people say things like HR, all of the other types of things y'all name, I ain't gonna get into it today. I'm always like, your slip is showing, right? What is your fear? What is the deeper fear here? Why are you so reluctant? Another way this shows up with my coaching clients, and I have these conversations with them one on one, is in the micro to macro career accelerator, is that they learn how to find the macro types of macro jobs they want, right? They see the salaries, they learn how to identify the roles, they understand how they qualify for them. They know they can get the job, right? But what will happen is when those deep rooted fears are not addressed, again, it silently creates a barrier that you are unaware of. So, what that can look like is they only look at like, and it's not even it's subtle. They don't even realize that it's happening until I point it out to them. they only look at or apply to jobs within the bandwidth of the salaries that they have historically made, right? So an example is, and this is just a very far right, a far left example. This is no real person. Let's say if they historically have only ever made $50,000 to $60,000, even though now they are qualified to pivot into macro level roles, they still only apply for jobs in the $50,000 to $60,000 range, right? Um, they only gravitate to those, they only apply to those. And when they look at jobs, let's say in the $80,000 to $90,000 range, they immediately do internal talk about I can't do the thing. And I know this because I had um a very transparent conversation with one of my micro to macro career accelerator clients, because I was like, what is going on? Why are you just gravitating towards these types of jobs? I said, is it something about the job title? Is it something about the salary? And she was very honest with me, right? It was about the intimidation and all of the things, right? So I say that to say you have to do the work, because believe it or not, the biggest barrier, depending on what the situation is, right? I am an expert in workforce equity. I understand that is a thing. But a large amount of the time, the biggest barrier that I see for some people is them. And so it's my prayer, it's my hope for you all that you move out of your way in 2024, right? Um, I sit and I observe a lot. I don't say a lot. That's just the introvert in me. But I'm very aware, right? I also pick and choose like the things that I want to engage in. Everything is not worth my time. Everything ain't worth my precious minutes that I get here on this earth. But I sit and observe a lot. And I have been on the scene since 2020, since March, April. No, I think it was more April 2020. It's now 2024, the end of January. And it may be you that I'm getting ready to talk about. A lot of people have been watching me since 2020, and they are still in the same situation they were in 2020, but they still have not reached out for help, right? If that is you, because we 4 years deep in the game now, right? 21, 22, 23, 24. April 2024 of this year will be 4 years. If you have been watching me since 2020, 2021, and you have not engaged in anything that I offer, you need to figure out what it is internally in you that is preventing you from reaching out for help, right? Because there is something much deeper there that's sabotaging, right? Um, and I'm gonna leave it at that. That's why I always say you gotta do your work. So if you are interested in really moving out of your own way and start doing the deeper fundamental work to get clear about what it is that you want to do in your career, and then at the same time work to build your confidence to go after the things that you dream of, you should be inside of the MSW Coach Mentorship community. It's a $25 a month commitment to meet with me once a week as a group, to sit in community, to be mentored by me, and to really receive the support you need to really start rewriting a narrative about your career, which ultimately will change the narrative of your life. What I always say is one good job, one good quality job will change someone's life, right? You could be making $100,000, but if you hate your job, your life will be miserable. You will come home, you will make, and your life won't just be miserable for you. You will make the rest of the people who come in contact with you on a personal level, day in and day out, you will make their life hell. So I always say, like, don't sell your soul for a dollar. And that's what happens when you are not clear. That's what happens when you really give control over to other people, right? That's why I don't teach networking as the sole strategy to find your job, because when you do that, you are taking a bystander role to end up just doing anything, right? So we really take a slow down version of getting clarity around what is it that you want to do, right? Addressing a lot of those unseen things that you are not even aware of, and then also building your confidence, your belief in your ability to go after things. So, if you are interested in coming inside of our community, the Macro and Paid website is the place where you should visit. It has all of the information you need to sign up for the mentorship community. If you are ready to work on a much deeper level with me, cohort 14 enrollment, I am so excited. It's getting ready to open up for the Micro to Macro Career Accelerator, February 11, 2024. If you're ready to come inside of my group career coaching program, where I teach you everything there is to know to get clarity around what it is that you want to do as far as macro work, how to identify those roles, how to apply for them by me teaching you one-on-one how to write your macro resume, and then how to interview and ace those macro interviews, because macro social work interviews are very different than case management interviews. So I teach you all of those things and more in 3 months or less. If you haven't seen the testimonials, click around on macroandpaid.com. They're all over the internet. You can go on YouTube, you can read some on LinkedIn, you can read them on my Instagram, you can watch the videos, you can go to my website. Do your due diligence. I told someone the other day who I was talking about the career accelerator. I am very different from a lot of other people in the business industry, in the entrepreneurial space. I am not about like trying to convince anyone to come inside of the program. That ain't what I'm not like a no holds bar, high pressure salesperson. I can present to you the information. It's up to you to do your due diligence. So I say that to say, like, do your due diligence, do your research. What I teach does not come from me just being a social worker. What I teach comes from me being an expert about careers and career pathway design, and helping people really create careers to enhance their life, to ultimately achieve lifelong self-sufficiency. That's what I do as a macro social worker. So do your due diligence. Vet your sources. What I always say, vet your sources. Because there's a lot of misinformation in the street. So do your due diligence on who I am. Go and read the testimonials, watch the videos. There's so many, you could spend days going through them. So those are the current ways to work with me. You have the mentorship community and you have cohort 14 enrollment. If you sign up for the wait list for cohort 14 of my group career coaching program, you will then qualify for a $250 discount off of enrollment. And you'll also get a special VIP invite to attend one of our group career coaching calls before you actually enroll. It's a special, it's a very unique opportunity. I don't do it a lot, right? It's a unique opportunity for you to come inside of the community and experience what it's like inside before you actually enroll. So make certain that your name and your email address is on the wait list. So that way I have your information to send you the details about the date and time for that. If you have any questions about coming inside of the cohort, my calendar link is also on the macroandpaid.com website. Schedule a chat with me. Let's talk about it. What questions do you have? I'll give you the information, and then it's up to you to use the information to make the decision that you need. All right. I'm going to talk to y'all later. Happy macro career planning. Bye.